Okay, welcome back to the randInt podcast with Raffy and Chandra. Hooray! We do not have a audio soundboard this time because we're using Zoom. Our podcasting software is currently not working very well. And today we have a guest who I call Mr. Samsung himself, Muneeb Ekhlaque. Yay! Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to having
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. And thank you for your
All
members.
right, so you're welcome. So Muneeb is the head of customer service for Samsung Australia, and he's also one of the directors for the Consumer Electronic Suppliers Association. Just a quick little background. So a few years ago, I joined the Samsung Members Program. It's for enthusiasts. And somehow within a few months, one of my bucket list items was to go to a tech launch event. And literally, I think I told Chandra about this. And 2 months later, I got invited to go to Singapore for an Unpacked event, which is where they release their phones. So super excited, went, and one of the other people from Adelaide, Vanessa, she came along. So I met her at the airport. We get there and we check in at the hotel. And this guy comes up and just gives us a big hug. And he's like, "Oh, hey, Raffy, hey, Vanessa." And I'm like, "Who the hell are you? How do you know me?" And he's like, I'm Muneeb. I'm the guy who runs this. And I'm like, right. And that was the first day I met Mr. Samsung himself. And it's someone that I've known now for a few years, and I'm glad to be able to call a friend. And so, yeah, it's been a while since we've been meaning to actually have him as a guest on the podcast, just because he has such an interesting story from how he actually ended up in his role and things that I haven't actually asked him. So I'm very curious to explore. So, yeah, thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for the warm welcome, Rafi. I think you got lucky since you met me in that event.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
That was the missing puzzle of your life, right?
Well, one of these tech launch events, you knew he'll meet someone.
Yeah, and who knew it was going to be Mr. Samsung himself?
Sounds like you've got a kind of interesting story as to how you've ended up where you are. I'm keen to hear more about that.
Yeah, I think I don't know whether I followed by luck or by chance, but I think I was fresh out of uni back in 2014, and basically what I like a normal student, everyone was I was looking for a part-time job somewhere, and I ended up in a call center of Samsung. That's where I started my journey back in 2014 with Samsung.
What did you do in university?
And I think when I basically joined, so that was also an interesting background. So if I go back, I actually studied my master's from University of Wollongong. My major was basically in accounting. That's where I started from. So I was very good in numbers, fascinated with numbers all the time. And I actually did my double master's in professional accounting and then into commerce. So my first, my job straight after uni was basically in accounting, and kind of when I worked in the accounting field for a year, it seems to be like a very monotonous kind of a role. So I was I was getting a little bit bored out of this thing. So then basically I end up leaving that job. And then for the next 6 months, I was looking for a new chapter. But all it ended up some of the friends referred me to join the call center, which was basically related to servicing the Samsung customers. So in the end, I end up joining as a call center, a normal call center agent. So that's where I started my journey back in 2014 with Samsung, and then basically move across within the customer service division into different roles, and have gone through from a normal agent servicing the customers, moving across into various roles of leadership and managing different divisions. And then I think some of the very interesting projects, one of them including where I end up meeting Rafi. That was my luck, that I end up making some great friends who were basically, the journey started as a customer relationship basically, and not only locally but also really have been there has been opportunities that has been provided to me. So I have run some projects into regions. Actually, then after 10 years, I ended up into a role of leading the customer service division, and here I am today. So it's been a roller coaster, in all ups and downs. But I think one thing that I can be able to mention, that I have actually made my way up from the bottom to basically understand the customer sentiment. And still, if you look at the relationship today, I'm actually a great friend of a customer as well. So simply to that, we actually like get along really well. And I think like that's what gave me the passion. And I think it helps me getting to know a lot of people as well. So I'm quite fascinated with that.
Yeah. I wanted to actually ask because like, both of us are not in corporate roles, right? So like, you mentioned a few things like, you ran projects and you had different leadership roles, right? What exactly does like, I almost feel like I wish we had like the soundboard so we can play that, came from the bottom, now we here song, because you've kind of climbed up the ranks and now you're the head of this major division of Samsung, right? So I feel like we need you on Chandra's yacht so you can like be using the money cannon, saying, made it. But like, like say she started off in the call centers, right? What was the first rung up and what do you think made them like, was it you approaching them or was Samsung going, hey, we like this guy and so we're going to move him to another role? Like how did that first step happen? Like I'm assuming the most entry level job can be like call center, right? But it also sounds like you took a bit of a leap of faith because you were in a totally separate field of accounting. And then like most people would be like, oh, well, like, I mean, I have no idea for like where the levels of job prestige is, but to go from accounting to call center, I don't know. I could see like people would be like, why would you do that? Right. So something must have driven you to go, this is definitely not for me. I would rather do that instead. And you've obviously made the right choice. But what was that? What was that initial step? And what was that first step after that kind of got you on your journey on the leadership ranks? Does that make sense? So it was a bit of a long-winded question.
Yeah. I think there's two different facets to it. Basically, like one of them, like what basically triggers me to take that step up. I think one of the things that I probably have been really thankful of is having the right manager to basically support you. And I think throughout my career, there are a number of people who actually played a key role into my development. So I have been new to the segment, new to the corporate world, but I think like I had the passion to develop things. So one of the things that I think is part of that success or part of that next step was basically I was kind of looking for something above and beyond to solve problems. Like that's what my key agenda was. Like while I was working through and navigating I was always taking time outside of those normal hours and build something that can help not only me to do my job in an easier way, but also help the team as well. So I think, and I was basically saying like we can innovate and we can develop a new system or something and working on those new ideas from the normal working hours. Basically, I think that was the first trigger point where basically my manager basically thinks, oh, this guy probably, maybe we should have given him some other opportunity to try and see if he can be able to lead the team. And I think that's the starting point to basically take a step ahead. I think part of the story is like basically coming from an accounting background and moving to customer service operation. Basically, accounting to me feels like I was very passionate when it comes to numbers and I was really good at that. But I think what I find that the practical reality of the accounting world is basically a little bit monotonous and a routine kind of job. Whereas customer service basically is very dynamic and it keeps on pumping your blood every single day. You're working on something new every single day because if you look at while you are dealing with a number of consumers, every consumer has a different habit and different psyche. So you have to have like every day you are solving problems in a very different way. So that's where it triggers that, okay, so that's the key difference I found into operations of customer service versus accounting. And that's why I think I find my passion more into operations as compared to basically doing a routine job where I was really good at it. So, and now I think like I have learned it in a different way, but I think I also feel very proud when I was able to solve the problems. Not only that can help in the end, it is impacting onto a customer who probably can go through their journey in an easier way. That's what basically I think I hope I make sense. So that's why I basically divided that into two different segments, and I think
Yeah. So I mean, to summarize, would this be a good summary? So it was kind of like you were good at this role, which is accounting, but from your point of view, you're separating it out into kind of more static and dynamic. So I'm gonna kind of say one was more reporting based, like you're kind of like the wall is blue, right? And you're just saying that the wall is blue. which is where the accountant sound comes from. There's a lot of numbers. It's kind of taking the facts and presenting them versus customer service, which is not so much you have them, like there's obviously going to be numbers, but it's kind of like it's a dynamic problem solving thing. I think that's where the dynamism comes from, is that you're saying that, hey, every person has a unique problem. That's why they're coming to me. And my job is to find these unique solutions so that they walk away happy. Is that a fair summary of what you're trying to say?
I think that's a fair summary.
Yeah. Okay. And it's mainly the problem solving element is what kind of drove you through it. And then you were saying that, as someone who liked solving problems, one of your managers kind of took an interest and kind of went, hey, this guy's trying to solve all our problems, like not just the customers, it's just making the units run more efficiently. And that's kind of was the stepping stone towards more leadership roles. Is that a good summary of that part of the story as well?
I think that's a spot on.
Okay.
That's fair or triggers.
Okay. And in terms of because again, we're from very different sort of the medical world is very hierarchical and it's very different. What would you say one of your favorite sort of projects? You mentioned that you've done a lot of projects and that is what each stepping stone in his life. To date, what is your favorite project that you worked on? And can you talk us through what it was, what problem it solved, and how you went about it?
I think that probably is closer to you as well, where I think the project that leads me to meet you, not because that I met you, that was if we look at the project of how we basically built up a community, which you are part of as well, I think that was one of my favorite basically project to date. And I think it gives me a different dynamic, because that was not only I was actually working on a local level, but mainly on the regional level as well. And you have attended a number of events together with me as well. And I think what we have seen is it has been really, really dynamic. And then I think all the people are coming from different background with different passion and different ideas. And that's what I love to connect with them. And I think we have seen while working together, but that was one of the things that was missing actually. If you go 4 years back when we started the project of basically launching a local community of Samsung fans. Basically, if you look at it, then we actually had no presence over here back then. And I think when we activated it and move across to basically open it up into different countries as well. And I think then bringing all the people together and working closely with the consumers who actually understands on what they are needing from the brand. I think that's something that basically I still feel that was a key milestone in my career, and how I am connected to them very closely still now. I think that has basically taken like you and the fans and the brand enthusiasts who are basically helping me on how to shape the future strategic view or processes to help the consumers, because I think the feedback that comes through from the consumers is very raw and basically helps us to understand where we are going wrong and where we are, and we keep on. So I think that project I would still say was the highlight of my career in the last 10, 11 years almost.
It sounds like it sort of makes sense that you're using what you learned coming through as an early customer service agent in your role now. But do you think actually some of the stuff you did from accounting has carried over as well to help you do what you do?
Yeah, I think so. I think the number aspect of it is very helpful, because in the end, while you are concentrating on building up the strategies and solving the problems, I think one of the key aspect is basically it has to be data driven as well. And keeping your eyes on how things are improving, you need to conduct a lot of analytics, especially when you are working through and looking at not only thousands but millions of customers basically, and millions of problems coming in through to you. So I think the data analytics piece basically plays a key role on which problems you will going to pick up first, which processes you will going to identify first to basically help. So I think the background of having a good background into numbers, coming from accounting perspective as well, I think that has really helped in how to analyze the data and how to focus and build up the strategy, which is basically not only consumer driven, but also basically backed by the data that we are seeing that is coming in through. So I think that definitely has helped a lot. And it's a key.
It's almost like an uncommon combination where someone, is good at talking to people and working with other people, but then also has that data analytics mindset as well, which I imagine helps you sort of, stand out from that crowd alone.
Yeah, I think that definitely has helped a lot.
And did you ever sort of, when you were there initially, did you sort of always see it as a cool, let's see how far we can go with this? Or was it, always just let's just see what this is like? Like, did you think that, yes, I want to see, climb up this chain specifically? Or was there a time where you decided this is where I want to be and this is the chain I want to go?
I think I probably haven't expected personally myself to basically build up that trajectory, right? So I think I did expect that I probably go to a certain level, but I think whatever basically has been come through my way as an opportunity, I have never hesitated to grab that opportunity. And I think probably right timing with the care, passion to basically that has helped a lot. But I think to answer that question, like if I have planned that I will be on this position, I probably haven't. If I have thought about that, I will go up to, like, if I was passionate enough to think about that I will go up to this level, then yes, I have. Like I always have that desire to basically, and especially that desire has been generated from the journey of my dad as well, because he has been on the top ranks of the corporate ladder. So I think that journey has basically been driven through his passion as well, and basically to make him proud as well. And I always see myself that into a corporate world, I probably one day end up into that journey. But it's a different fun. Because he always used to teach me, like it's going to be a very different fun. You will love it, and I think that's what I'm finding. Basically, I think uh, it's if I haven't planned it out, but I think the opportunity that has come through my way, I definitely have raised my hand to basically work on those opportunities just to resolve those challenges that has come through.
How do you sort of think about learning for those challenges? Because I imagine, for example, putting on a big event like that might have been something a bit different and a bit new. I guess it's a challenge in itself, or even with other events. How do you go from doing those, more in-house things, I imagine, to organizing external events?
Yeah, I think probably like you don't get things perfect in the first place. Always when you try something new, and I think like any other human being into any other position, I think I have learned from my mistakes as well, probably. And I think while you go through and trial something new, you always have an area of opportunity that you have missed, and you can't. And I think you will have to admit throughout in your career as well and in the life that you can't make things perfect. But the most important thing is like you give your best effort to it, and basically you try your best and try to adopt what the consumers are basically telling you. And I think you try your best, and then you learn from your mistakes, and you do it better in the next time. So I think that's the mindset that I have always tried to adopt, and I think that has taken me a little bit like a long way as well into this journey. But always, like, I still remember what I have done wrong in my previous role, and I try not to repeat that mistake again, but also try to work with the team to ensure that with my experience, I could be able to basically educate them to ensure that they don't repeat the mistakes which I have already made. So I think like that has definitely a positive reflection on making things better when you tried doing it the following time. But it's
And
not
you have
always
like
perfect.
those interesting or fun lessons that you can share?
I think there are plenty. I think every day, like I said, the day to day, basically, like there are so many different dynamics that you are working on in a day to day, and like there are decisions that you need to make, like especially in an environment where you need to make decisions very quickly. I think. It's little bit very spontaneous that you need to make very crucial decisions that can impact onto someone or onto a specific process. So I think day to day, like I'm not say I cannot be able to say that like I have basically made every decision 100% perfectly fine. I think in a day to day operation, you are making decisions which probably may not turn out to be very beneficial. But I think as long as you have basically learned and then moved it across, I think like that.
Are there any
basically,
examples that you can
that's what
give
it
that have had either unintended sort of funny consequences or interesting consequences, like a decision that you made that did not go the way that you expected, but then you go, this was unexpected but good? Like, did you have any sort of interesting examples of because again, we are new to corporate culture, so like when like my decisions are all medical, right? So I don't know what a corporate decision looks like, and what's an interesting one that like,
Yeah.
like if you made one and you go, oh, that didn't work out like I expected, but hey, it still worked out in a very different way. Like, did you have any examples that you can share with us?
Not specifically. I like on the top of my head, I can't think of any specific one, but I think like your decisions probably matter more crucial than basically my decisions because you are working through in the health industry. But I think, but I think like it turns out to be in a funny way. I can't be able to recall anything at this point of time, but I think turn out to be in a disastrous way. Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Can you give us an example if you're allowed to share?
It's true.
Yeah, I think turn out to be a very disastrous. We are very embarrassed for basically the situation that you have gone through. I think there are plenty of examples available, but I think like that could be a little bit too sensitive to basically disclose on the platform. That could be internal business related as well.
Right. All right.
Fair enough.
In terms of like, you've obviously done the customer service role. Was in terms of, I'm assuming like Samsung has an organization structure that has like customer service and marketing and all other different elements, right? And I'm not like, if you're the head of customer service, you're fairly high up on the organization level. Was customer service always going to be like what you aimed to climb up the ranks in, or did you consider some alternative pathways? Like, was there any other avenues that you considered, like marketing, or like, I mean, it sounds like you really enjoyed like the corporate strategy side of things. That's almost like a executive C-suite sort of the level that you're doing, right? Like, is there like A, where you consider something else, and B, where do you see yourself? Like, as in, are you going to keep climbing the ladder? Are you going to go somewhere laterally in the organization? Or, I mean, you'd never go over to the Apple side. So we know that that's not on the cards, but would you go to other? Don't do Chandra. Don't do it. Don't be tempted by the forbidden apple.
Partake of the forbidden fruit.
I think interesting. I think for me personally, I think like what I have always been aiming for is to learn something new all the time. And I think even within the customer service segment, because it's basically a large corporate organization. Even if you look at the diversification into the product ranges, diversification into the services, and diversification into the geographical landscape. I think there is within that division, there are so many different facets to it. And when you basically go into understanding of the entire value chain of how customer service basically works, I think like what it takes to basically run or resolve the problems of the customer, it's basically the combination of multiple mindsets and combination of multiple teams to basically make that happen. So I think like for me, even up until now, there are a lot of hidden areas into service where I actually basically get fascinated to learn something new, right? So when I sit with them, I try to learn from the bottom basically, and the dynamics of like different aspect of like how the service value chain works, like leading from the frontline perspective all the way to managing the supply chain, managing the entire network, and delivering the consumer with the fastest possible resolution. Like how everything basically puts into place, it's very fascinating. But from my perspective, like definitely, I think beyond customer service, I've always been wanted to learn the tactics of how marketing works or how sales work, because I think that is also one of the key areas where you unlock the potential of basically how you can sell things. Like my father was from sales and marketing background, so his background was always sales and marketing, and he was good in basically marketing a product and selling a product. And I always think like that. I used to think that I'm always going to be an introvert, going to have difficulty or how to convince someone to buy something. It always fascinates me in my mind as well, and I always wanted to learn that tactic. And I think like maybe in future, I don't know where the future will going to take me, but I think maybe in future that's one of the tactics that I actually wanted to learn: how to market and convince a person to basically buy something. And I think that's a basically difficult art, but I think if you unlock that trait, I think you have unlocked the potential of basically into the corporate world, because in the end, that's one thing it's you to go a long way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like the core part of any business, right? Like it requires, well, actually the core part of
If your
most
customer's
jobs.
happy at the end of the day, they want to have more, you'll do.
Yeah. And also like sales, like the core part of any business is usually selling a service or a product or something. So I think that's like one of those core things. But it sounds like, just to summarize what you were saying before, it sounds like you really enjoy, like, it's like the level that you're at. It's kind of like you're the head of customer service, but one of the things that you seem to enjoy is getting into the nitty gritty and understanding all the bits that go to making an experience work. Like I think you mentioned, like, supply chain. I can't imagine too many people take a role and it's like, where does this part come from to fix this thing, and how do I optimize it further? So it just sounds like you're the sort of person who likes looking at like a complex system and figuring out which bits you can tweak to optimize it and speed it up. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, and how it impacts in the end, right? So that's the most important thing. Basically, you will always have to remember what will going to impact, even whether it's related to that small screw of the spare part that you are basically looking at, like where it impacts, and that impact can be basically resulted into anything. And in the end, you have to make sure that you keep an eye on that impact and then making those decisions. But I think one of the point that I actually, while I was listening to you, I wanted to basically point out is basically a majority of the organization feel like, okay, sales or marketing department basically bringing the customers in. But I think one of the other aspects what I have always been focused on is the retention piece as well. I think retaining the consumers is basically a customer service job, and how to retain the consumer is basically kind of in our hand. If the customer has basically gone through a bad experience with a brand, or basically gone through a bad experience with even a particular person of that brand that is associated with the brand, I think likelihood of that customer coming back to the brand is going to be difficult. And I think that's where you make a key difference when you are into a role of customer service, because if you have this in your mindset that your service will going to retain that consumers to the brand and bring them back, I think that's where you are contributing. Basically, if you go a long way for a customer, they will always going to remember you. And I think due to their experience, they will definitely going to come back to you, and not only come back to you, but also going to talk about their experience with 10 other people or 20 other friends. And I think then it will going to be spread out. So I think retention is one of that basically key element that is an oversight, but it's the key part of the customer service role.
And a happy person is, going to be buying the next version of it as well, like Raffy. Every time there's like a new one.
Yeah, it's like need the S Pen. You need more of it. So yeah, I think what you're like, just it almost sounds like, you have your dad as a role model for a lot of things, it sounds like, and he was in sales and marketing, and you're almost coming at it from this tangential, it's very randInt for the podcast, where it's like, instead of going down the direct sales route, what you're actually doing is going, hey, instead of like selling to new customers, what I can just do is increase retention by just giving them, like, promising them a 10 and giving them an 11 out of 10 experience. So they just like, it's not quite sales. It's like this almost lateral. It's essentially it's loyalty building, right? Like you're bringing up the brand loyalty because you're just going, you had such a good experience. Why would you even look anywhere else? And it's like a slightly tangential, different area of marketing. Well, yeah, it's all in that sort of customer satisfaction, if you like, rather than customer service. It's like just going, hey, above and beyond what your expectations are, so that you're delighted. Would that be kind of like what you're aiming to do?
That's what my learning as well throughout my career. That's what I have learned. And I think a lot of customers like you, I think you and me basically met on an official event, but I think a lot of people who have actually reached out due to not a pleasant experience and have a chat, have basically assist them in resolving their issues. But I think built a really good relationship as well, that they are basically still sometimes checks up on me. And I think a lot of customers has basically turned into a good relationship because of the experience that they have remembered when I went through them, when they were basically trying to resolve their issues. So, and I think like that's the learning that I have taken from the last 10 years journey into this particular sector. And I think that's now what I always aim for, to make sure that
it's something that
always stay humble and always try to basically focus on retaining the consumers by providing them above and beyond service as compared to their expectations.
Yeah, like, I mean, this is something that I've noticed in what you like, in our interactions, because like there's been friends who've had troubles with orders and whatnot. It's pretty rare that someone who's high up in an organization chart takes direct ownership, because there's been times where I'm like, hey, so-and-so's having problems. And you're like, give me their order number, give me their details. I will find the person or I'll solve it myself. And it's actually, we were talking about it just over dinner. Like Chandra and I just went out for dinner long ago. And one of the things that I was saying is like, we have the new members coming to the community, and one person was asking, it's like, well, what's been the highlight? And multiple people said the same thing, which was like, like being either at the events or like you can see it at the events very clearly, which is when you're at Unpacked event, relatively high people from the organization, like the global organization from Korea and whatever, are there. And not only are they there, they actually spend the time talking to the fans, not the influencers, not the famous people they've invited, not the movie stars, because there's been movie stars, there's been like K-pop stars and whatnot. Like, I just remember like the global head of retail during they had just opened the experience store in New York, right? And they had some A-list, like, I mean, I don't know. I'm an old man, so I don't know who Mark Johns or... So anyway, there was like some famous person.
Old man, I'm confirmed.
There was like, full security, like bouncers, everyone. It was packed, right? And she spent, Sophia, she spent 35 minutes. She had like her PA trying to pull her to do this, to do that. And she was like, no, I actually want to just talk to the members. I don't want to talk to the influencers who are paid. They just tell me what I want to hear. Like, I want to hear what these guys actually have to say. Then those three of us. And like, we were talking in the community, and and the moment I said that, then someone else was like, oh yeah, this other event, this other person who's like key person of influence, they wanted to spend like all this time talking to us. And I think that's very different as an organization, that like there is this interest in it's not just like, oh, that's a very famous person, we should like spend time talking to them. It's like trying to hear what the fans have to say or what the actual customers have to say, like having that direct relationship as an organization, because this comes through like, exactly what you're doing. It seems to be like there's a culture of that throughout Samsung. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of point it out and just say, yeah, thank you, because it just makes it makes being a fan so easy, but it also builds that loyalty, because you're just like, oh, they're like, you're not going to make my, make it blue, make it purple, make my version of matte black, whatever, but it's at least you're hearing what we have to say.
Well, what about outside? Like, you're kind of passionate about your customer success, but what about things outside? What else are you passionate about?
I think Raffy, apart from, I think like in the intro, Raffy did highlight that I am also associated to Consumer Electronic Suppliers Association. And that association was also came through because of Samsung. And I think having connected to the industry and solving, like learning what is going on to the industry in terms of the future of how they are shaping the future of the consumer electronics industry, because I think they are very closely associated with the government and the regulations as well. So that is something that basically also goes hand on hand with the industry as well. So I work on closely monitor basically the regulations and change in what is coming in terms of the product development and stuff like that. So I think that basically also gave me a little bit of an experience from a broader perspective of where basically our government is thinking in terms of, like, it could be anything. It could be start from product development and goes all the way up to like recycling schemes and stuff like that. So I think you closely watch and monitor on where the government landscape will going to basically land. So that's one of the aspects that I basically do outside of the normal work, but is still associated to work. And recently, she and I have been involved in some of the conversations as well, basically of like giving something back to the community, right? So that's what basically I was like kind of getting really passionate about. I think I'm like it's not a kind of a wise statement. I'm not of that age that I have made my millions and now I wanted to be a philanthropist and then I wanted to basically give something back to the community. But I think like that's the passion that basically now kind of getting into it. So like there should be a purpose of like what you are doing, like how you are contributing into resolutions of providing resolutions to the people, but basically looking at looking like the same dynamics, looking at the broader scale on how we can be able to help the people who are in need. And that's where basically I reflect back to it, because my father basically runs an independent organization which he has basically formed in 2009. So it's been almost over 15, 16 years. The organization is basically giving the underprivileged people investing into their skills so that they can earn their own living and basically and they can be part of the community to help the others. So how the concept basically works of that organization, the name of that organization is basically generating employment from alternative resources. And the concept that it basically started on is we will not going to give the charity and then forget about it. But what we will going to do is invest into the skills of the people and try to teach them how to make their own living. And it's kind of providing microfinancing loans to the people who need and invest in their skills. But that microfinancing is basically interest free. And what we ask those beneficiaries is basically from their monthly earning is to return the principal amount back into the organization, which we basically utilize to help the other people. So they become part of that circular economy where they are initiated as a beneficiary and they become the donor as well. So I think like that concept.
When they pay back, do they get to see who the next person is?
Like my father has basically developed this thing because of the passion. Yeah, they can, because not only them, but like all who are basically donating into the organization, they are basically like we capture each and every data set of who the funds has been invested into and what sort of activities they have undertaken utilize using those funds as well. So it kept all the record through the beginning. So I think that was a very interesting concept. It built on that model, and I think to date now probably 40,000 families has been helped across, and the recovery ratio of for that donation is around 97%. Basically, is 97% of the principal amount has been returned and then recirculated into the to help the other families. I think that concept which initiated as a very small concept. I think one of my key passion that in the future I wanted to take it basically on a broader and a global scale and through roll that model out into other underprivileged countries where we can be able to make some difference. So I think like that's one of my other passion, which I how we can basically be able to expand that together with the help of already contributing to this organization. So and I think that will probably be my new passion or a new project that I wanted to work on apart from the normal life.
So that's quite cool actually, because I remember reading recently as well around the sort of, effective parts, effective ways of donating and microfinancing loan type things do have really good impact as well. And that's one thing I sort of used to do as well, like in terms of my main donation things used to be to one of those similar different sort of thing. It wasn't just for skills education, but it was a similar sort of thing.
There you go. So Chandra is going to be the new donors for the organization.
There we go.
I think one of the things that just listening to you speak, I think two big things come to mind, which is there seems to be this firstly, it comes across that you're very much a workaholic, like Chandra and I, because like
Never.
it's been 45 minutes. I was like, wow, we haven't even moved off work as a topic. We were gonna ask you about other things, and I was like, we're still at work, and it just went from like.
And here I was thinking that we'd probably be able to wrap it up in 30 minutes.
Yeah, so we went from Samsung work to Consumer Electronics Board to your charitable foundation, but we're still in the domain of work, right? And the other big thing that comes across, apart from you being a massive workaholic, which, by the way, little side story, after I met him in Singapore, right? So there was this time, like you go on these missions and like you're doing stuff and you get home and it's really late, it's like 1 o'clock. And this guy, like literally simultaneously, he's like having a chat, pulls open his foldable because of course he's got the fold, and he's just typing away. And you just go, like watch his fingers and go, how does he not have RSI? He's gone through like 50 emails. And then you wake up the next morning and I sent him a message about something, right? And at like 4:40 a.m. he's responded. He's like hardly sleeps. He's just like working nonstop. And this is him whilst he's overseas. But the other big thing that
Leveraging the jet lag.
the other big thing that seems to shine through is this intrinsic desire to be of service, right? Like literally it's like your role, which is head of customer service, but it also sounds like you're involved in the governance and whatnot of the Consumer Electronics Board so that you can kind of see where things are going, help regulate and all that stuff. And then outside of that, your other passion is like philanthropy and trying to give back to the community. It's like this, like almost a deep intrinsic thing to you is to be of service to others. Like that's just what shines through in everything that you've said. So like, firstly, if I had the soundboard, this would be claps because we need more people like that in the world. But the other part of it is like outside of that, in that, huge amount of spare time that you must have outside of like helping run a charity, doing like all this board governance work, as well as being the head, because, I assume that your day-to-day job is not exactly, people don't come to you because they're super happy. It's usually like they have a problem. And for you to have like a positive, like, and I have actually seen this where I think someone had a bit of, it wasn't really a complaint, like they were like, this broke or whatnot, right? And I mentioned it to Muneeb and he was like, that person is having a terrible experience. How can I make it? Like, it literally was like the first thing he said was like, yeah, let's go figure it out and make that better. And I was like, it's rare that you see people in that sort of a role because people usually get jaded over time. And if this has been 10 plus years of your career and you're still maintaining the enthusiasm and you have that as your shining light, like your North Star, like I think that's something to be commended. So I'm like, well done.
That's pretty cool.
But just to wrap up work things so we can actually get to non-work things, I know I'm going to lead with a leading question, which is, I know you're a foodie and I know you like travel, right? What I want to know is your least favorite cuisine and your least favorite travel destination to date.
Least favorite
Yes.
cuisine. Yes, I think I have liked almost every food. I don't know, like the least
Almost
favorite
every food,
cuisine.
but not every food. So what haven't you liked?
Some food are more equal than the others. What food are less equal?
Yeah. See, that's a very loaded question.
That's why we're asking.
I think it's a very, very, I think it's difficult to answer.
You know what else he hates? Sardines.
I don't know if I actually have a least favorite food, in all honesty. And now you reminded me, I think I have never even tried it. So that's why I can't say.
Wait, durian or sardines?
I think durian, which I haven't
right.
tasted, which I haven't tried. So that's why I was not saying it.
Yeah, because if something smells like that, it's like nature telling you don't go near it.
Seen my friends trying it and I can't stand it. Yeah, I can't stand it.
All right.
Yeah, I just can't.
Okay, so what's your
I've
least
discovered
favorite
something new.
destination? What's your least favorite destination you've traveled to?
I can't say Melbourne because I like Melbourne.
That's it. Melbourne. Every time I come back, it's like, hey, please,
think I
like,
have-
Melbourne doesn't want me here. What about you? Melbourne hates me. So it's okay. You can hate Melbourne.
I think every country or every city where I have been, there is something different about it. So I think I haven't explored at this stage which one is my least favorite city or even least favorite country. I think every country that I have traveled with, there is something different about it. Even though if you ask me that whether I could be able to settle down in any other city or country, I think like all the places that I have been, I still find probably Sydney or Melbourne better to live for as compared to any other country. Like even if I talk about New York or London,
Okay.
I think I still get really admire and really love to in Sydney or even in Melbourne as well. And you can count how many times I have actually visited Melbourne this year. So that basically started to become my second favorite destination.
So outside of Australia, then we'll make it an easier question. So outside of Australia, what's your favorite location to visit? Like the one that you could go visit over and over again?
Probably, I think, I don't know, actually, maybe London, but I think London due to because I have family, like my brother is there and
I
some
mean,
of the friends are there as well, because that probably would be ideal that I can be able to visit again and again. I think, but that's mainly also due to friends.
it's also interesting. So I saw a random statistic the other day, which was they were showing like percentage of small business. So it's obviously not going to be the multinationals, right? And which ethnicity owned the businesses in London. So like it had UK people, like the English, and it was like 11%, right? Number one on the list was Bengalis with like 23% of businesses. Number two was Pakistanis. Number three was Indians. So it's kind of like, yeah, maybe London, you just feel more at home because it's just like everyone's brown.
No,
Everybody has returned to the
not
motherland.
surprised.
Outside of like, you travel quite a bit and it sounds like you've got a fairly hectic schedule. Outside of, sleeping, how else do you spend your time?
A lot of people have asked me these questions, right? Whenever I have, like, I'm catching up with some of my executive coach or something, like they always ask me, like, "Oh, what do you do outside of work?" And then I actually sat on and still kept on thinking, what actually I do outside of the no outside of the work and outside of basically sleeping. I think probably like if you ask about a particular hobby, then probably I probably don't have one, but I think the thing that I probably like is probably some of the long drives. Basically, I'm very keen on, and I try to explore like through the road trips, some new destinations. And I think that is something like if you look at my weekends, some of my weekends basically I spend in that way because I think gives a little bit of sense of relaxation and try to basically you can think a lot while you are on your way as well. So I think like during the past few years I have done a number of road trips as well, and I think that basically is really probably I can call a hobby outside of sleeping
It's a
and
good
the
way
long.
of working while relaxing because you can look out the view while your brain
Yeah,
works.
exactly.
Yeah, see, it's like
That's
the
true.
traditional. It's like we should just rename randInt podcast to like Workaholics Anonymous because that's like every single person we've interviewed is like, what do you do outside of work? I work in another form. It's like randInt is more like random ways you can continue to work whilst pretending you're not. Now, a couple of rapid fire random questions, right? What's the weirdest sort of customer feedback or feedback you've received so far that you can remember?
Like weirdness in terms of
Yeah. Like, I don't know, like whatever the customer comment was or, feedback was, and you just go, that is just weird.
a customer complaining to Samsung about Apple. I have seen those ones as well.
Really?
I've seen those ones as well.
Why is my iPhone battery dying?
Because it's crap.
I left it next to Raffy's Samsung.
Okay. What's something, I mean, I could answer this for you, but I just want to see what your thing is, which is like, what's something that you find enjoyable that other people don't seem to like or enjoy? Like, and I'll give you an example, which is like in terms of anesthetics, right? Because again, work focused. I didn't have another example, which is like there's all these different things you can do, but I like the repetitive lists that are like say endoscopy. It's the same thing over and over again, so you can notice the minor variations and just kind of optimize. But most of my colleagues don't like that, right? So it doesn't have to be work related. Sorry, it's come back to a work related example from my end. But what's something? Oh, actually, like yeah, another one for me is I don't mind washing dishes. Like I hate drying them, I hate ironing, but like the repetitive act of like cleaning a dish, I actually kind of find therapeutic. So what's something that other people dislike that you actually enjoy?
You said you could be able to answer on my behalf. So I think, I don't know, I'm finding it difficult to basically think about it.
Oh, I mean, I can tell you right
What
now.
is in your mind?
What's in my mind? Well, you see, you like hearing people's complaints and doing something about it. Most people like to ignore it. Like, I don't want to hear
Yeah.
Chandra's like,
Of course.
oh, hey,
Of
why
course.
does my Apple stuff suck? I'm like, because it sucks. Just get a Samsung.
Yes, yes, yeah. I think that's basically it. Time into the work. Yeah, of course. Like I think day in and day out, what basically we here's the issues, and I think it's basically difficult to sustain. But I think uh, like if you look at from a positive angle, that you are trying to basically resolve someone's problem, there's a sense of achievement in there, and I think that probably is that ideally many others as well who are associated to this industry for a longer period of time.
Do you have like a list of dumb complaints just to cheer you up sometimes? Because I imagine it could get a bit depressing after a bit. You're like, wait, let me open up the golden oldies.
No, I probably haven't kept that, but I think
That would be a great book.
I probably should write a book about that. Right?
Yeah.
No, you
I
should
think you're
start
right.
like one of those anonymous Instagram accounts, like just text. It's like customer service that a request that I've received today. Hello, Samsung. How do I fix my lightning port?
Yeah, there's like the mechanic versions of that I've seen as well. It's like this car rocked up to the workshop today, and it'd be just like, a bullet hole through the steering wheel, which is like, and my steering wheel's not working very well. Okay.
My favorite one was still seeing like, a lady rock up to a petrol station. There's like a little meme and she's got like the petrol thing, but it's a Tesla. And then she's just trying to figure out where to put it fuel into the Tesla.
But when you launch that Instagram channel, let us know. We'll be happy to promote it.
Oh, definitely.
One other last sort of question. Like, I mean, we've kind of figured out like the themes of your career and what your motivations are, right? But when you were younger, like say when you're in primary school, right? What did you imagine you'd be doing for work or like your career or your aspirations? What was that?
I think that when I was younger, I probably always wanted to be a cricketer.
A cricketer?
I think that was my passion. That's probably the passion at that time, right? Like you actually used to play a lot of cricket. So I said, like, okay, probably at that time. But then I think I come to the realization that I probably, yeah, I'm not built for such. I left that dream a while ago.
What was the
So
one
that
immediately
probably could be
after? After the
my
cricket one?
like primary school dream.
Did you have anything else after cricket that you're like, I don't know, I want to be, okay, no more cricket, but I'll go be a firefighter?
Or probably always wanted to be a businessman or something. I think that was one of my key.
Well, I mean, in a way, you're kind of there,
yes.
right? Like in the corporate world, you are like,
Yeah. I think yeah, that's what I always wanted to be in that sector.
Would you say like, as in, so, I'd be the first to have a whinge about work most days, right? But it also sounds like, we kind of touched on how, your day to day involves hearing a lot of complaints, and it doesn't seem to have jaded you. Would it be fair to say that you actually enjoy your job, like a fair amount? Like this is kind of, as you just said, you wanted to be in that sort of business, corporate sort of thing, even as a kid. After, okay, it's not cricket, sure, but it was immediately after. It wasn't firefighter, it wasn't astronaut. It's like, no, I want to be a business person. Like, would it be fair to say that, yeah, by and large, you do actually kind of enjoy your job, which is a rarity?
Yeah, I think so. I think I quite like what I am doing. I think I have like everyone else have their own frustrations as well that come through in a day-to-day environment and day-to-day challenges from work. So that's given. You always get frustrated onto things. You always get worried about things when you are basically managing such a vast scale operations. But I think in the end, like there is a sense of satisfaction in there that I am doing. I think that's what I always wanted to do, probably. And I think that's a sense of achievement that I probably take on a daily basis. And I think you have progressed something, and that's basically is the another sense of achievement that, okay, after all the negativity or negative things that you have to face, you actually has progressed into something positive. So I think I quite like what I am doing, and I think and built up a good sense of achievement up until now, where I am. And I think
Nice.
always looking ahead, we wanted to expand that further, wanted to learn something new that will going to come my way, I think.
Any sort of either sayings or words of wisdom to people that you think would be beneficial? Like any sort of general life advice or words of wisdom that you would have wanted to know from, like, say, if this was you 10 years ago, what would you say to them?
I think two key words that probably is uh, highlight of I personally think that the reason for my success, no matter where you are in your career or in your corporate ladder. And second thing is like always keep on learning, because I still, whenever I rock up to work or I actually go attend any sort of meetings, I think like I always go with the mindset, and I always have that feeling that I have to prove myself every single day. Because I still think they always humble, that I think that there is always gap in my learning and I always have to learn more. And basically the more successful in the terminology of the other people we basically look like, I always think that with that success, there is a lot more responsibility come onto your shoulder. And that responsibility is basically you always have to prove that responsibility or give it back to your team or to your stakeholders every single day. So that basically the burden of that responsibility always keep on pushing you to basically keep on going. And that's why I come up on the two, I can sum up again with the two words is basically.
It sounds like it's very Spider-Man of you, with great power comes great responsibility. So he's not just Mr. Samsung, the superhero. He's actually Mr. Spider Samsung. Well, I think it's given that, thank you very much for being so generous with your time. We had a lot of tech issues getting started, and just getting this podcast up and running. The audio quality might be a little bit different because we've had to resort to Zoom. Our podcast platform wasn't working, and it's getting pretty late at night. So we do very much appreciate your time and for taking the time to have a chat to us. For all the listeners, please do like and subscribe so that we can keep bringing you interesting stories and more random adventures in the randInt podcast. And if you're listening, and unfortunately we have to plug Apple Podcasts, Chandra's favorite thing, but for whatever reason, the ratings on that are actually important, or whichever podcast platform you're listening to, remember to leave us a rating and a comment so that we can keep bringing more amazing guests. And like Muneeb, thank you again very, very much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I think it's a pleasure to talk to you. And thank you once again for basically inviting me, I think.
No,
Really
I'm just
appreciate it.
glad that after such a long time, we managed to coordinate a time and actually pull this off.
Yes.
And
Yes. Finally it happened.
And we look forward to seeing your Instagram account.
yeah, the hidden Instagram account. All right. Until next time. Bye.
Yeah. That's the thing. Now I owe that to Chandra. So the
Exactly.
first follower will be Chandra.